Hello, friends and fellow lovers of all things beachy. Welcome to The Beach Speaks, the podcast that shares stories about the beach and our connection to it. I'm your host and beach lover, Paige Friend, helping you reconnect with the beach, return to your soul, and reimagine your life. So grab a cool drink, relax in your beach chair, stick your toes in the sand, and enjoy this episode of The Beach Speaks. Hey, beach lover. I have a problem with books. I love them. You might say I'm obsessed. My feeling is one can never have too many books. In practically every corner of my house there are books. Some I've read, but most I haven't yet. For instance, on a shelf below the TV in our family room are several large beach-related coffee table books. One titled The Ultimate Guide to Collecting Sea Glass. I haven't read it yet, but I love the pictures. And in fact, I recently reached out to the author to see if she'd be interested in being a guest on the podcast. Hidden in the cabinet above the TV, there's a small stack of random titles like The Essentials of Living on a Boat, Lincoln on Leadership, and Healthy Gut, Healthy Mind. In the kitchen are cookbooks, of course, and then there are 3 bookshelves in the library music Zen room filled with classics that I was supposed to read in college but only skimmed because even though I was an English major, I just could not possibly read 4 classic novels in one semester and remember what I read. Then there are the books I've read that I loved so much I had to run out and buy the first edition, like Donna Tartt's The Goldfinch. To me, it's a classic, all 771 pages. Then there are the books I want to read and just haven't started. Books on mindfulness and spirituality, like John Kabat-Zinn's Wherever You Go, There You Are. Some self-help-ish books, and others about subjects that I'm currently obsessed with or have information about a skill I want to learn. You know, the kind of book that I'm convinced will make my life so much easier if I could only get around to reading it. The majority of the books I haven't read yet are ones that I heard about on a podcast. I can't tell you how many books I've purchased after listening to a podcast. Even books about subjects I'm not really interested in, but I feel like I should be. Then there are the books that I probably won't read, like The Book of Secrets, written by the Indian guru and mystic Osho. It seemed like one I could really get into until, after I bought it, I discovered Osho was actually the cult leader Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, who's featured in the Netflix documentary Wild Wild Country. I watched the documentary and now I'm wondering, if I had read that book before I knew this about Osho, would I be in a cult right now? I kind of want to read it, but it's 1,200 pages. For now, it's going to sit on the shelf and collect dust. Like the novel, An Object of Beauty by Steve Martin that's been sitting on my bedside table collecting dust. It's not that I don't want to read it or that it's not entertaining. It really is. It's just that Ernie and I thought it would be fun to read it aloud together before going to bed, but whenever it's my turn to read, I get through about 2 pages and Ernie falls asleep. I don't think it's the book putting him to sleep. I think it's my voice. Oh well, we'll get through it eventually. Today, I specifically want to talk about one of my favorite kinds of books, beach reads. I thought about it back in June when I was packing the essentials for an upcoming beach trip to South Florida. For me, the essentials are a swimsuit, sunscreen, and a good beach read. I pushed the episode back to July, thinking it would be a great follow-up to my conversation with author Jane Rosen. But then some other guests and stories came up that I wanted to share with you, and this Beach Reads episode kept getting pushed aside like that Steve Martin book on my bedside table. Now, there are just a few weeks left of summer, and I'm finally getting around to talking about beach reads. But you know, in my opinion, there's never a wrong time for a good beach read, whatever the season. A good beach read isn't just a book I read while on the beach. It's one that transports me to the beach, wherever I am. One that evokes that feeling of peace and relaxation, of putting aside the stress of everyday life and letting go of all the things I feel like I have to do, because all I want to do is lie back in a beach chair by the ocean and let my mind escape to another world. What beach read, then, do I choose? Considering my book situation, I have plenty to choose from, but I don't want to spend precious beach time deciphering complex plots, so no War and Peace. Too many characters with names like Count Ilya Rostov and Countess Natalia Rostova. I need a book with names like Josh and Sarah. And it has to be a book that if I put it down, like if I was on the beach and wanted to go for a swim or take a beach nap, I can pick it up later and not miss a beat. Like a lighthearted novel with romance, adventure, or mystery, or an entertaining behind-the-scenes memoir of a celebrity, or a book about ordinary people doing extraordinary things that make you feel like, yeah, I want to do that. A good beach read is something that will whisk me away to another world where I can sit back and relax and let the characters do all the things while I sip on my pina colada and maybe even take a nap. It doesn't even have to be a physical book. I have a stack of travel magazines with articles about Florida beaches that I've been meaning to read. And now that I think about it, I have a couple of audiobooks somewhere on my phone that I downloaded for free about 2 years ago. Whenever I'm a little overwhelmed with all the things and my mind starts to crave that stress-free, lost in another world, beachy kind of feeling, if I turn down the volume of the noise in my brain just for a moment and listen, I can hear the beach saying, Paige, if you can't physically get to the beach right now, just pick up one of your beach reads, go lie down on the daybed in the Zen room, light that candle you bought that reminds you of your amazing trip to Fort Walton Beach, the one with the scent called Beach Bum, and just read. Even if it's only for a couple of minutes, I promise you'll feel like you're right there. Here are 5 books on my beach read list that are speaking to me right now. Number 1 is On Fire Island by Jane L. Rosen. Now, this is the perfect example of a book I bought because I heard about it on a podcast. Only this time, the podcast was mine. If you want to know more about this book, check out episode 68 of the podcast titled On Fire Island, A Journey of Love, Loss, and Resilience with author Jane Rosen. There's just something about hearing the author tell the story behind the story that makes me want to read it even more. Second is Beach House Memories by Mary Alice Monroe. It's the sequel to The Beach House that I read earlier this summer, and it has that Carolina low country vibe like in Charleston, South Carolina. I became so invested in the characters' lives, I feel like reading the second book would be like coming back for a summer visit with friends. Number 3 is Silo by Hugh Howey. I don't typically go for dystopian, post-apocalyptic science fiction when I want to relax, but after binging the first series on Apple TV, the story was so compelling. I can't wait another year for season 2. I have to read the books now. Plus, the books are almost always better than the TV series or the movie, in my opinion. And 4 is When We Believed in Mermaids by Barbara O'Neill. This title popped up on a friend's Facebook post, and I just had to add it to my list because, well, mermaids. For number 5, I asked Ernie what book was on his list. He loves history and treasure hunting, so his pick would be Florida's Golden Galleons, The Search for the 1715 Spanish Treasure Fleet by Robert F. Burgess and Carl J. Clausen. I think that would be a fascinating book to read. Maybe we'll make that the book we read together, if it doesn't put us to sleep. What beach read is speaking to you today? Is there something you haven't read yet, but you want to? Or one you started and just haven't finished? Maybe there's a book you want to read again because it reminds you of a time you spent on a relaxing beach vacation. I'm compiling a list of beach reads, so be sure you're subscribed to the podcast so I can tell you how and when you can get it. All the links are in the show notes. The beach is speaking. Are you listening? Thank you for listening to this episode of The Beach Speaks. If you like what you heard, share the podcast with another beach lover. And speaking of sharing, I want to know how the beach is speaking to you. To record a message, just go to my website, thebeachspeaks.com. Click the voicemail button. It's super easy. And I'll play it on the show. And if more beach is what you crave, visit thebeachspeaks.com or follow The Beach Speaks on Facebook and Instagram, where I post all my gorgeous sunrise photos and videos. It's another way for you to reconnect with the beach, return to your soul, and reimagine your life. The beach is speaking. Are you listening?